best way I can say it.
I guess the hardest thing is surrendering to it. I mean,
well, it's taken me years, and I'm still practicing that because the moment we try to force an outcome, and I know this from experience, the moment we try to control an outcome, the moment we try to predict an outcome, the moment we try to make it happen and force it, is the moment we doubt our creation. And so we have to lay down the very thing we used our whole life to get what we want for something greater to occur. And that surrendering process is there's a very fine line, CJ, between intention and surrender. Intention is getting clear on what you want. Mm-hmm. Surrendering is trusting in the outcome. And so if you over-intend, you're trying. If you over-surrender, you're lazy and lethargic. So it's got to be this kind of razor's edge to align those two.
Okay, in your example, in your own personal example with your accident, I mean, because you were a chiropractor, you were visualizing what you wanted to have happen, because you probably knew, all the different parts of your spine and ideally what you wanted to have it look like and what you wanted your function to be because of your medical training. So is that trying, or where were you on that edge when you were doing that?
I assure you that I was trying in the beginning.
Okay.
I assure you that when we're trying, we're working really hard, because it's just like if you're learning how to snowboard. I mean, you get all the information and you can theoretically understand it, but then you get on the frictionless board and you are moving in many different directions and you have no control. So then you're working really hard, and then you keep doing it in trial and error. Sooner or later, boom, it gets easy. You start to relax into it. And so I think that we all try to a certain degree when we're learning something new. But once you understand from enough experiences of doing it, you know when you're there and you know when you're not. And for me, the hardest part is getting there. Once I'm there and I'm connected and I feel amazing and my heart is open, then, it's kind of funny, because all the things you thought you wanted, you no longer want, because you feel so whole and amazing. How could you want anything when you're whole? It means you have it already. And so we know now that this whole brain state is something that we're putting a lot of emphasis on, because when people experience that level of wholeness, and they start to have energy move into this upper center, is the place where we create from. And so when you feel whole, it means you already have it. So there's no longer any trying. It's already yours. You don't know how it's going to happen or when it's going to happen, but really that's none of your business. You want to have a surprise. You want it to come in a way that you least expect, catches you off guard, that leaves no doubt that what you did inside of you produced some effect outside of you. And when you can correlate what you did inside of you with the effect that you produced outside of you, you'll pay attention to what you did and you'll do it again, and it starts to become a skill. So I think that the feedback that we need in our life is the event. And we don't only work with, like people with healing. People create new jobs and they create new relationships, win the lottery, and they have new opportunities, and they have abundance, or whatever it is that people want. That's your measurement. I mean, your life is your scientific experiment, right? And so when you start to see your life, you doing your inward work, and you start to see these synchronicities and serendipities and these opportunities, and things start showing up in your life, you know in the beginning that it's the result of your inner work.
Right.
And so I think that it's a process. I think that you have to be realistic. In other words, you can't say, I'm going to make $1 million tomorrow, and you're sitting on your couch and you're expecting it to come to you. No, that's not it. You have to create that vision. You have to create that future experience. And then you have to make choices consistent with that vision, because if you don't, then you doubt your creation. You doubt that it's actually real. So getting people to trust in the unknown is, I think, the greatest challenge, because trusting in the unknown, typically the unknown is a scary place. And people cling to the familiar. They'd rather hold on to their guilt they'd rather hold on to their unworthiness than step into the unknown, because at least they can predict who they are.
Yes.
But I know from experience that when people get into that unknown and they're comfortable there, and they start to relax into it, and they start creating in the unknown, the best way to predict your future is to create it, not in the known, but in the unknown. And that's when the magic happens, and it happens over and over again.
But you can only create, as you said earlier, you can only create based on your understanding on your past experiences. Like you were talking about creating, having dinner with your good friends. And that was the vision after you'd kind of streamlined your meditations when you're there for 6 hours. So, but I mean, your creations are usually based on some form of your experiences, right? So in what way are you creating? When you talk about your creation, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, we are reality-producing machines. We're creators by nature. And you either live in a state of survival, or you live in a state of creation. Living in survival is living in stress. And stress is when you're reacting to predators and threatening situations in your external environment. And 70% of the time, people are reactionary individuals that are living by the hormones of stress. And when you're living by stress, the outer world is more real than the inner world. When you're living by stress, you're mobilizing enormous amounts of energy, and your senses are heightened, and you become a materialist, and you try to predict the future based on the past, and you're in a race, bottom line. When you find the present moment, and you disconnect from your body, you forget that you have a body, you forget about the people and things and problems in your external environment, and you forget about time, you become pure consciousness. That's the moment your consciousness begins to merge with the greater consciousness. Mm-hmm. And when you get good at that, being a creator in that process, you're leaving an imprint of information into the quantum field. Now, it may take several experiences before you begin to see events start showing up in your life, because many people will get up from their meditation and then go around and, open their heart and their meditation and then get on the freeway and cut people off. Well, you just lost it. You just returned back to the old state of being.
Right.
So it takes constant practice to be able to, and awareness, to be able to sustain a certain state. But when you begin to create something, the moment you start thinking in a creative way, your frontal lobe turns on. That's the crowning achievement of the human being. That's 40% of our brain. That's the workshop. That's the CEO, the symphony leader, boss. And you start saying, what would it be like to be wealthy? What would it be like to have a great relationship? What would it be like to be in love with life? What would it be like to have an interdimensional experience? Now, the moment you ask that what-if question, your frontal lobe has connections to all other parts of the brain. And what it does automatically is it begins to call up different networks of neurons of the experiences that you had in your life, as well as the knowledge, the philosophy you've had in your life. And it seamlessly pieces them together to create a vision. That's called an intention. And when you get that idea, that vision, that's now a selection of a potential in the quantum field. That's a future possibility. Now, the more knowledge you have about, leadership or abundance, the more information you have, the more complete the model. So I'm a pragmatist. Remember, I'm not going to say to a person, oh yeah, just create wealth and it'll come to you. No, you're going to have to grow up and make your way to a greater level of consciousness, and you're going to be initiated in your environment in order to do that. So that means then that on some level, the more you understand the qualities and characteristics of people who have hundreds of times failed and then one more time and succeeded, that's an important piece of knowledge for you to be about. Being plastic and flexible and changing against certain things and giving up parts of yourself and your past is part of the process of abundance, but it's also the process of healing. It's also the process of a loving relationship. So when you can revisit that vision every single day and remind yourself of that future, let's demystify it. You've got a coordinate. You have a direction you're going to go. Now, most people, this is not just an intellectual process, because you have to teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like. In other words, you have to feel abundant before your wealth comes. You have to feel whole before your healing can occur. You have to feel empowered before you're a leader. You have to feel love before you have a relationship. You have to feel awe before the mystical moment. And when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, your brain and body are no longer living in the past. They're living in the future now. And if you keep doing that every single day, you will biologically, neurologically, and genetically begin to change your body in preparation for that event. And it may take 60 days, it may take 30 days, it may take a year. But when people understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, the how becomes more easy. And they get to experience the truth of all of this. And that's when they feel more centered, more whole, more happy, and more satisfied with themselves. And they feel self-love.
To me, it seems 30, 60 to a year is such a small time. I've been working on this for my whole life. Not my whole life. I'd say for the last 15 years I've been working on it. So
we are a work in progress. I mean, I've been working on it since 1986, and I still get angry, and I still get frustrated, and I still get impatient. But the question is, now I'm aware.
Yeah, that's true.
The question is, how long am I going to stay there? Am I going to be angry all day? Like, for what? Right. I know enough now that the faster I overcome my emotions, the faster I'm no longer attached to my past. But it's trial and error, right? I mean, this is the playground. This is where we're initiated. This is where we figure it out, you know. So you may have been mischievous as a child, but you're not mischievous anymore because you've overcome that aspect of yourself. And so we're always overcoming some aspect of ourself in order to get to the next level. Yeah. And I think that process of evolution is what should never end. That's just my theory. I just don't think it should ever end. I mean, there are people in our work that are in their 70s and 80s, and
I love it.
They have dreams, and
why wouldn't they? They're going to probably live another 20 to 30 years with medicine, and if they keep on tapping to the intelligence, probably longer.
And why not? I said to the audience in Carefree in Arizona, how do you become supernatural? You got to first start doing things that feel unnatural. And if you keep doing the things that feel unnatural over and over again, sooner or later you will become supernatural, and that's really where I think the conversation about this that we're talking about right now, I could never have 10 years ago, because there just wasn't an awareness for that. Yeah. It just wasn't there. Yeah. Now I go into a corporation, and you could even say meditation 4 years ago in a corporation. I walk into a corporation, and the moment I walk in, people raise their hand and like, okay, let's talk about brainwaves.
Wow.
I'm like,
I'm shocked.
You don't want to talk about neuroscience and all that? No, we get it. We just want to do it. Wow. Saves me a lot of time in it.
Wow. That's very promising. Okay, so folks who actually want to hear more about your research, you can go to You Are the Placebo, Making Your Mind Matter. This is like your first step, I think, as well as your other, your first book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Is that the title?
That's
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, yeah. And then the Seattle lecture and East West Books are on August 1st. Actually see the data. Then go to the Tacoma Progressive Workshop at the Hotel Murano on October 23rd, which you can find by going to drjoedispenza.com. JoeDispenza.com. And then when you do that, then you'll actually be able to get the 8 hours of free meditation, training, and then also be elected to go to some of the advanced workshops.
That's pretty good. You did well.
And you know what? Here's what I was doing. I was releasing my mind during the whole interview. I'm like, just let it go. Follow the thread. And you know what's miraculous? You still are listening and remembering, because there's a part of you that's like, I hope I can remember all that stuff, but it's there, the higher intelligence. Thank you so much for being here. What a fantastic human being you are. I am just in awe of the work that you're doing. I want to go to Tacoma and take one of these workshops. It's amazing. And I think that there's so much that we can learn that we just don't understand yet. And if we could just open our minds that this is possible, God, miracles can happen.
I have to tell you that the concept of a miracle means doing something outside of convention. When you step into this zone, you will feel, or at least be viewed as foolhardy and insane, because You're going against current beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you actually are able to pull it off, you'll be considered a mystic, a saint, a genius, because every great person that went against convention faced the same conditions. And I love this time in history right now because I love the idea of common people doing the uncommon, and nobody is excluded from this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, folks. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.